Okay, we are starting chapter 3. Chapter 3, we're going to be solving these big equations. Okay, which might seem scary at first, but as you know, once you start practicing and getting the hang of it, it just becomes easier and easier. So, this first one, it says solve the equation by graphing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this equation, negative x squared plus 2x plus 3, we're just going to plug it in to a graph. So if you have a graphing calculator, you can throw it on there. I'm going to go to Desmos. So negative x squared plus 2x, negative x squared plus 2x, and then I think it was, plus 3. Plus 3. Okay. So now we're going to look at our graph. It's this red graph. And what do you mean we're solving it, Mr. Higgs? Well, all we're doing is we're looking where it crosses this, we'll do it blue here, this x-axis. Where does it cross this x-axis? And it crosses it right at here when x is equal to -1. And here, when x is equal to 3. So if I were to answer this question, it would be x equals -2 and x equals 3. Because that's where it crosses, oh, sorry, not -2, -1, not -2, -1, my apologies. X equals -1 and x equals 3. Okay, the next one, 4x squared plus 8x plus 4. Just go ahead and graph it. We have 4x squared plus 8x plus 4. Okay, where does it cross that x-axis? Well, it actually crosses at our same one, right? Where does it cross? Instead of crossing twice, it crosses just once, right here, at x equals -1. So for our answer, it's just x equals -1. Okay, and the bottom one, x squared plus 5. X squared plus 5. We can get rid of, it's 8x, and we're going to get rid of the 4. And it's going to be plus 5. X squared plus 5. Okay, where does it cross that blue line? Where does it cross that blue line? It doesn't, right? It doesn't cross that blue line. So, how do we answer this? There is no solution. Okay? Back here, if we want to be technical, we say no real, sorry about that interruption, no real solutions. Okay, so pretty easy. Just by graphing, that's pretty easy. Okay. Next, we're going to be solving these without graphing these. We're going to be solving these by just simply using algebra to solve for x. Okay, and this first one, how do I solve for x? Well, I have x squared equals 4. What's the opposite of something squared? It's the square root. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. What's the square root of x squared? It's just x. What's the square root of 4? A lot of people think it's just 2. But we also have to remember that -2 squared is also 4. So the answer here is plus or minus 2. So +2 or -2. How about this one? If we take the square root of x squared, it's just x. If we take the square root of 36, it is positive or -6. Let's try these down here. Okay, we're using algebra to solve these here. My recommendation is when we just have an x squared and then anything plus or minus, we're going to take that square root last. Okay, so we're going to add 9 first. That's going to cancel out these 9s. We're going to be left with x squared is equal to 49. And from here, we just take the square root of both sides. We're left with x is equal to positive or negative 7. Have to remember that positive or negative. Okay, solve this one just like the last. We're going to subtract 2 first. We're going to be left with x squared is equal to 64. Take the square root, and we're left with x is equal to positive or negative 8. Down below, okay, this one's a little different. Okay, because we have x plus 3, and that's in parentheses, and that's going to be squared. Okay, so how do we do this? How do we think we should solve this? Should we subtract 3? No, because I don't think we can, because that x plus 3 is in parentheses. Okay, we're actually going to take the square root right away. Okay, so when there's parentheses around the square, we're going to take that square root. We're going to be left with just x plus 3, because x plus 3 squared, well, the square root of that is just x plus 3, is equal to positive or negative 5. Okay, now we're going to subtract 3. So x is going to have 2 different solutions. X is going to be equal to, what's positive 5 plus 3? Or positive 5 minus 3 is equal to 2. And negative 5 minus 3, x is also equal to negative 8. Okay, so 2 different solutions. That over here. Okay, this one, we're going to take the square root. We're going to be left with x minus 2 is equal to positive or negative 1. The square root of 1 is just 1, positive or negative. And we're going to add 2. Okay, so positive 1 plus 2, that's equal to 3. Negative 1 plus 2 is equal to 1. And what if we have something like this? Remember, we want to get whatever x is attached to, we want to get that alone first. Okay, so let's get rid of that 8. Let's add 8. We're left with 2x squared. These 8's cancel. We're left with 2x squared is equal to 32. Okay, now we want to get x squared by itself. We want to get rid of that 2. So we're going to divide by 2. We're left with x squared is equal to 16. And there we're going to take the square root. So we're just breaking these down. X is equal to positive or negative 4. I think we have 2 left here. Yep, 2 left. This one. Okay, we could divide by 4. We could add the 16. I'm going to add the 16 just to get that out of the way. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the 16. I'm left with 4 times x plus 11. That's going to be squared. Is equal to 384 plus 16. That's 400. Okay, now what? Well, we could take the square root, but then we take the square root of 400, and I don't know what that one is. So we're going to divide by 4. These 4's cancel out. We're going to divide by 4. That gets me an easy number, right? X plus 11, that's squared, is going to be equal to 100. And now it's just like above. We're going to take the square root. We're left with x plus 11 is equal to positive or negative 10. And then we're going to subtract 11. So when 10 is positive and we subtract 11, we get negative 1. when x is negative when we subtract, or when 10 is negative when we subtract 11, we get negative 21. Okay, last one. Last one down here. Looks kind of difficult, but we can get through this here. Let's see. If we subtracted 2 from both sides, we'd be left with this canceled out, and we'd be at minus 2 over here, right? And that doesn't get any easier. Okay, so I'm not going to subtract 2. Instead, I'm going to multiply this whole side by 5. Okay, why 5, Mr. Higgs? Well, then it gets rid of my fraction right here, right? It gets rid of that fraction. If I multiply by 5 over here, it gets rid of that fraction. Okay? But remember, when I multiply by 5, I have to distribute to both sides. So 5 times 1 over 5. The 5's cancel. We're just left with 1x squared, or just x squared. Plus 10 is equal to, no, on this side, the 5's cancel. We're left with 3x squared. A lot easier now, right? I'm going to subtract this 1x squared from over here. That's going to cancel that out. I'm going to subtract the 1x squared over here. I'm left with 10 is equal to 3 minus 1. That's 2x squared. Now, I'm going to divide by 2. Divide by 2. I'm left with 5 is equal to x squared. I'm going to take the square root of both of these. I'm left with x is equal to positive or negative square root 5. Okay, final answer.